Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. Love seeing lots of Sybill assistants join the call as it should be. All right, I'm gonna let us get started just for the sake of time. I know you all have a lot going on. Real quick, just to do a little bit of introductions. My name is Colin. I run product marketing here at Sybill. Shivash, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Colin. Hi, my name is Shivansh, and I'm leading product at Sybill.
So let's talk a little bit about where we're going today. We have a full agenda for you. We'll cover a lot of ground. We'll start with kind of the why behind some of these features. I think it's helpful sometimes to frame like, why did we build what we've built? Like, what's kind of the animating purpose, desire behind all this stuff? So we'll start there. And then what we'll kind of do is for each feature, we'll talk through a little bit of the before, like what was the status of the product before, and then the after. And then Shivansh and I will give you live demos where we can of those new features. Then from there, we'll dedicate some time to talk strictly stuff that is coming ahead. You guys are the first people to know about this stuff before we wrap with Q&A. All right, let's dive in. First, let's talk a little bit about kind of the big why here. Our goal when we were looking at our product and kind of where we were heading, we wanted to make it possible for sales teams to truly use Sybill everywhere. But for that to be true, a lot of things would need to change. First off, you need to be able to access Sybill anywhere. So any tool, any location, be able to access Sibyl's brain anywhere you wanted to have it right at your fingertips. Second, it also meant you need to be able to push Sybill everywhere. So whether you wanted to bring Sybill information into a deck or into a dashboard or into another tool that you're using, you should be able to do that. And then finally, that you'd be able to pull from everything. So whatever deal data source that you have in mind, Sybill should, if it's truly everywhere, an everywhere tool, it should be able to pull from that. Now, I think we've been hinting in this direction for a while, and I think we're finally have made some really big strides towards it. And so I'm excited to talk through it with you all. So a few months back, you might remember if you joined the last What's New in Sybill, we launched Sybill in Slack. So you could officially ask Sybill questions about your deals directly from Slack. So no more kind of back and forth of your manager says, hey, what's happening in this deal with so-and-so? You can move over to Sybill. You ask Sybill a question, you bring it over. We consolidated that so you could ask Sybill questions directly from Slack. And it's also been possible for a while with recurring prompts that you could schedule a prompt to run to your email. And of course, you could access Sybill directly in the app. But we felt like that was not enough because there are a bunch of other tools in your stack that you might want to access Sybill from. And that's why we built API and MCP Access in Sybill. So now you can connect Sybill to really any tool in your stack, whether that's Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, any tool that you have in mind, Sybill can connect to it via API and MCP Access. This is now live and available in all of our enterprise plans. And as of Friday, we got approved to be an official Anthropic connector, meaning that sometime this week, Shivansh, fact check me here, you'll be able to find Sybill directly in Claude. Now, I want to do one of the scarier things as a product marketer, and I want to actually show you what this looks like live in the product. All right. In theory, you should be able to see my Claude instance and API MCP Access. You can connect Sybill to just about anywhere. And naturally, we're seeing a lot of people connect it to Claude. So this is what it looks like for me. Now, here's an example of maybe a prompt that I ran in Sybill. I said, use Sybill to analyze our closed lost deals from the last 12 months and find the top 5 prospects worth re-engaging based on product features we've shipped in that time. Then draft re-engagement emails for each account. And you can see that Claude was digging through our tools, deciding which tools to work with. It pulled from Sybill, both our list deals and Ask Sybill, and then was able to produce a list of who we should engage with and some copy for how to reach out to them. Now, in theory, I could have done this in Sybill, but if you're someone who's working natively in Claude and that's where you're finding yourself often, this is super useful. Here's another example of a prompt I ran here. Use Ask Sybill to create a business case for Loxo, anonymizing key contact details. So again, Claude pulls from Sybill's memory and the way it's interpreting and understanding our deal data and created that business case. Now, it's worth saying again that for these two examples, I could have done this natively in Sybill. Where this becomes really valuable is if you've given Claude specific skills, like say, for example, you have a very specific standard for your team when it comes to business cases, a format that your team is very particular about, connecting to Claude can be very, very helpful. A lot of times for your evergreen deal actions, it's helpful to do that in Sybil. And the reason for that is that Claude sometimes likes to take shortcuts. So let me kind of peel under the hood and show you kind of what I mean by that. So if you go to my settings, connectors, you go into Sybil and to configure it, you'll see that there are a number of read-only tools that are listed under here. It doesn't just say Sybil, you have Ask Sybil, you have Get Account, Conversation, Deal. What this means is that Claude is able to access both Sybil's reasoning and all the raw data that Sybil is actually typically querying against. So this is the buckets of raw data like your account information, conversations, deal information, et cetera. So you have this kind of raw data that Sybil is capturing and working from all the time. And then you have all of the way that Sybil specifically thinks about your deals. That in this case, we'll say Ask Sybil. Now, our recommendation is that you configure Claude in such a way where you're always allowing it to query against Ask Sybil, and you need approval to query against these kind of pools of data that Sybil is typically querying against. And the reason for that is, again, that Claude sometimes will try to take shortcuts. So here's a good example. We tried building a kind of forecast within Claude, and we found that Claude was, when it was not using Ask Sybil's logic, it was not using Ask Sybil's way of thinking about deals, it was looking at 30 deals in stage one and then making a forecast based on that. Now, anyone who is sales savvy knows why that would be an obvious problem. You can't reliably forecast if you're only looking at deals in stage one. And that's because Claude, again, is trying to limit its bandwidth and be smart about how it's actually pulling data. So sometimes it will take those shortcuts. That's why we'd recommend specifically leading with Ask Sybil, because then you're going to get Ask Sybil's reasoning in Claude. And then there's a ton of other use cases of how you can utilize this. That's a key kind of clarifier I would give. This is, again, available now. If you have questions or you want to get access for your team, you can email sarah@sybil.ai. That's in the chat as well. All right. So 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference called Spring that's in Austin. And a lot of times I would be in these conversations, really smart marketers. In this case, that's Madhav in the center there, who's the VP of marketing at Story Lane, major Sybil power user. And there were multiple times that I was having conversation. He's giving me feedback on the product, how he's using it, all these use cases. And my first thought was like, wow, I really wish all this information was in Sybil. I really thought like, man, I would love to be able to capture this conversation we're having in person, native in the app. Now, sellers aren't looking for marketing or product feedback most of the time, but maybe they're taking an in-person meeting. You're flying out to meet a high profile prospect, or maybe you're going to a dinner where you're meeting with prospects and you want to capture something. Or maybe you're brushing up against an account that you're working at a conference or walking the floor at a conference. There's all these significant conversations that today, the problem is if you don't have your laptop, you don't have Sybil. And that is why we launched the Sybill Mobile App. So now with the Sybill Mobile App, you'll be able to record calls anywhere. So you can capture in-person calls or online calls directly in the app. You can use Ask Sybill on the go. So you can get instant deal answers right from your phone. So say, for example, like you're at that conference and you want to brush up on what's happening on an account recently. You could say, hey, refresh my memory on what's happening with account X. And Sybill could pull that for you. You can also review and prep meetings. So if you wanted to look more specifically at the last time you talked to a prospect, then you were meeting them in person, you could quickly review those meetings. You can look at your team meetings. And then you can also knock out tasks directly from the app. So maybe you're in line at Starbucks. Hopefully you're not going to Starbucks. But if you're in line somewhere and instead of doom scrolling, maybe you want to knock out a follow-up email or you want to handle some of your admin work. All of that can happen directly within the Sybill mobile app. And this app is live and available in the App Store now, specifically the Apple App Store. For all my Android users, if you want it, let us know in the chat because we're collecting information on should we build this. But right now it's live and available in the Apple App Store. You can download it using this QR code. All right. Now, this is, again, the scarier part of my career as a product marketer. I can't do a true live demo. The reason for that is my phone is currently being used for my camera right now, but I'm going to show you a totally unpolished screen recording of the Sybill mobile app. So like no editing. I just straight up recorded it and I will try to talk through it in a way that makes sense. This is just a completely unedited screen recording of the Sybill mobile app. So when you open the app, it drops you directly in Ask Sybill, where you can ask questions across all your deals, sort of like what we mentioned before. All of that is available at your fingertips. So here's an example of, I wanted to figure out How often are we seeing RevOps enter our deals? Where are they entering? How often is that? Are they kind of playing a key role? And I was able to do that directly from the Sybill app. Or here's a prompt, kind of like I showed you earlier. Like if you wanted to find accounts that you wanted to re-engage with, you do that from the app. You'll notice in the center at the very bottom nav is that blue microphone button. And this is for kind of the key feature you'd expect, that if you click on that button, you can record a meeting in person. When your recording's complete, you can immediately name that meeting. So let's say I'm using this at the conference. This is my conference chat with Madhav. I name it, I hit upload to Sybill. It's a very short meeting, so this is going to take a few seconds to upload, but it is uploaded within a couple minutes, and then you can see it in your meetings. So this is my meetings. I'll show you some of our sales teams meetings instead, because those are a little bit more relevant to how most of you are going to be using Sybill. I can listen to them, get customer feedback, or kind of understand a deal directly from the app. Here's a deal that Matt from our team is working, and you'll see that I could watch the video up above. You have the summary, you have AI tasks. So Matt got his work cut out for him. There's some tasks that are due today. Shout out Matt if you're on this call. And you're able to review all of those meetings directly from the app. Also, here is the tasks portion of the app. I'm not going to show you that just for time purposes, but you're able to ask Sybill questions, record meetings, review all of your past meetings, and knock out tasks directly from the mobile app. All right. So something that we see a lot for our users, that most users who are actually using Ask Sybill love it. Like that's the hands down. The feedback we get is maybe if you're a Gong switch, you're like, oh my gosh, the AI is so much more powerful than what we had in Gong. With a lot of times that you see if people are copying and pasting transcripts from a call recording into ChatGPT or Claude, that Sybill is really, really powerful. But what we saw often happening is that people were running a prompt in Ask Sybill, and then they're maybe a business case or a pipeline report, and then they're copying and pasting that data elsewhere. So maybe into a deck, or you're using it to build a dashboard or something like that. They like all this data, but text and tables are great. They're just not enough for maybe what you needed for your team. They need a new format. Or maybe imagine with me, how many times have you begged marketing for a business case deck, or an updated case study, or an updated pitch deck, or an updated one slide sort of explainer? Meanwhile, marketing is backed up on 6 other projects, and they hit you with I'll get to it. So you're stuck kind of waiting weeks for this deck that is on brand when your prospect doesn't really give a damn about branding. They just want the information. That's why we built decks in Ask Sybill. So now instead of waiting on marketing, you can ask Sybill to create decks for you. So you can build a business case deck directly from in Sybill. You can give a 10-slide breakdown of your ICP. You can create a win-loss deck, all without waiting on or bugging your marketing team. Now, something I'll call out just ahead right now is that today we don't have brand guidelines native in Sybill. That's something that our team is working on and building right now. But again, like come to the point I made earlier, sometimes you just need the information to be accurate and presentable. And we're at that stage where you can, on your own, self-serve, create these decks very fast in a way that is visually beautiful and is accurate based on your actual deal data. Now, we didn't want to stop there because decks are awesome, but there are also a lot of other formats that you might need. Maybe you wanted it, Ask Sybill to show up in your emails so you can reply faster, because we're really great at follow-ups, but replies were not something you could do. Or maybe you want to be able to build a dashboard with what you're seeing in Sybill so you can have a visualization of your pipeline. Or maybe you just want, like anytime a deal stage changes or something happens in your deals, you want Sybill to interrupt you, and you want Sybill to tell you like, hey, something just happened. This is something you need to know. We are making that possible. So you can push Sybill just about everywhere. So first off, we're building the ability to reply to email threads directly in Sybill with preloaded replies that are ready to send. So instead of kind of running that chat query, you'll see it directly in Sybill, a reply to your deal email ready to go that you can approve or edit and then send directly from the app. We're also giving Sybill the ability to build dashboards for you. So you can just ask Sybill for a dashboard on your pipeline data or on your deal data and have a ready to go dashboard in a few seconds. So no more Excel hell, no more asking and begging for a dashboard. You can build one directly within Ask Sybill. And then finally, we're building event-based prompts. So a few months back, again, we shipped recurring prompts where you can say, hey, for example, I want a weekly pipeline review every Monday in my Slack channel at 8 a.m. So you can schedule all these different prompts from Sybill to pop up in Slack or in the app or an email on your schedule. But what we didn't have was the ability to do that based on an event. So maybe when a deal changes stages, that you would get a prompt running. So we're building all of these, all three of these are coming very soon. And we're doing everything we can so that Sibyl's brain can kind of permeate every single part of your work. Qualify for coming soon. I think we can talk through a couple of these, like dashboards. Our team is currently in. Hey, Shivansh, you want to speak on these three? What timelines are across these three?
So that should be pretty soon. I would say end of this month, all three will be on. We're just ironing out a few experiences. I would be very happy to demo some of these.
Yeah, we're going to show these in just a moment. Also, on the note of decks, that's live. You can do that now. That's been live for a couple of weeks, but these three should all be live in theory by the end of this month. That end, let's demo. I'm going to start with, I'll demo decks, and then we'll have Shivansh show some dashboards and event-based prompts. All right. So I'm going to show you just two examples of decks created in Sybill. So I asked Sybill, hey, can you create a dark mode win-loss deck covering the last 90 days? Which types of customers are we winning with and why? Why are we losing? And where should we focus this quarter? Keep it under 10 slides. Not a super complicated prompt. Sybill cranked out and created this deck. And when you actually look into the details here, very accurate on like, hey, why are we winning? Who are we typically winning with? What is our largest deal that happened this quarter? What are the main reasons that we're winning? Like a really thorough breakdown of our team's win-loss. And then in kind of a nice dark mode, Sybill did break its own rules and technically make it 11 slides. I think it excluded the first slide. So we can't be perfect all the time, but this is actually a really helpful breakdown of what's happening in our deals, a really accurate win-loss breakdown. So you create a business case deck for Storylane. I mentioned them earlier. They're a customer of ours to upgrade their customer success team to Sybill. And so here's a business case that walks through some based on what Storylane told us in way back in conversations before they started with us, in ongoing conversations that we've had with their team. It's pulling that data and helping them make a case for why we would actually have them expand Sybill into their customer success team. All right. With that, I'll hand it over to Shivansh to demo some dashboards and event-based prompts.
Right. I'll share my screen. All right. So this is one of the use cases that I built out was a forecast intelligence use case. So this is the dashboard that Sybill came up with, and it has multitude of things and across things I want to know. It has specificities I could get into. So for example, I want to know for our top 15 deals, what it looks like, how it calculated through the data. I know what the call is, and I can also see what my risks at risk deals are. So this is one example. I have another one for you guys here, which I personally really benefit a lot from. So this is one dashboard that I keep creating over time. This really helps me understand who we are selling to, what our ideal customer profile is, what it looks like. Of course, I've anonymized most of the data here, but this is definitely a very powerful use case for not just sales, but across the team. So it gives me an overview of top industries we're selling to, company breakdowns, deal value distribution, our personas, and then we could look into demographics. It has all of these data for me, psychographics, competitive intel, who we are winning the most against, what pieces of our product customers are buying the most. So this is what it looks like. And the possibility of things I could do with this is kind of endless. I could pull it out, put it in a cloud instance, create a live dashboard for myself, put it in presentations, so on and so forth. So this has been really helpful internally even as we're testing it. So really excited to bring this to you guys really soon.
Wait,
Quickly move on to the second piece, which is event-based trigger prompts. Can you see my screen right now? I'm on the trigger prompts. So, all right, thanks for the confirmation, Colin. All right, so what it would look like is for most of you have used recurring prompts. This is like a level top. So recurring prompts would allow you to pull out Sybill on a recurring basis and ask it questions that you want and provide the answer to you in different places that you want, like Slack, emails, over time. So over a period of time, we took it a step further to now also trigger these prompts based on certain events. So unlocks a multitude of use cases now. So for example, let's say I am a sales coach, sales manager. I go to this event called Deal State Changed. So whenever there is a state change, I want to coach my team on the learnings from whatever has moved a stage forward. So I would say, let's say stage move to qualification. I can add multiple conditions. Let's say deal owner is, I'll select my team. And let's say once I have my team on there, I'll select a deal I want to preview it in, and I'll, let's say, add a prompt and hit preview to look at what the kind of answer would be generating when this condition gets satisfied. So I have this answer generated. Now I know exactly what to talk about, who we are engaging, who are the missing stakeholders, metric scorecards, all of these details that I've asked in the prompt. And then I can go on and choose where exactly I want this to go. So I can have it emailed to myself and my team. I could send it to Slack in different channels that I select here. And I could also have it in app, of course, in my Ask Sybill chats. So that's one use case. Another use case there is, let's say I say a meeting gets processed for a particular category of meeting, let's say sales demo or sales discovery, and I want to coach the rep who's ramping up. I would directly go select the category. I'll select, let's say, a meeting I want to preview it on. I have coaching prompt on here. I could just say preview, and it will tell me for that call what it looks like, and then keep generating it for the coming calls which satisfy the conditions I've put in. So it'll give me a scorecard. It'll tell me what the dimensions are, what the score is across those dimensions, what are the top three missing questions that the rep had to ask but didn't, what are the coaching notes that I should be careful of while talking to my rep about it. So that's pretty much it. And you just have to hit activate to have all your prompts on there. And the Sybill will tell you things based on triggers.
Amazing. Thanks, Raj. Right. Let's cover a few more things before we wrap. Let's talk through specifically some of the features that are just around the corner. We hinted at a few of these that are going to come out by the end of this month. And then I will show you a little bit of what's also coming, some this month, some into next. First, this one is for all the biz dev and SDR folks. Up until now, Sybill's sweet spot has really been squarely mid deal. So we can tell you a lot about what's happening in your deals once a prospect has entered that buying process. So typically they've raised their hand, they've taken a meeting with an AE, but this leaves out some blind spots. So like, what about what's happening in a cold call, in that initial kind of first impression of your product, your pitch, the pain points they mentioned? What about a phone conversation with a prospect? Sometimes AEs will take a call on the phone and they'll actually talk to a prospect via their phone rather than via a normal kind of like meeting in Zoom or in Google Meets. That data is massively important for helping you understand how you win, why you win, what's happening in your deals, the most recent kind of urgent action items. And that's why we're building dialer integration natively in Sybill. So Sybill will be able to capture your dialer phone calls, and then you'll be able to ask questions about them just like you would a normal meeting. So your whole go-to-market team can operate out of Sybill. This isn't just a tool for AEs and CROs and VPs anymore. We're extending into your biz dev org as well. On that note, something that we've also come to realize is that so much deal and go-to-market strategy happens outside of Zoom calls, in your internal conversations. It happens in that sales Slack channel. It happens in a business case doc or a go-to-market planning doc. And our take is that Sybill should be able to capture all those things. And so that's why we are also building Slack and Google Drive ingest. So you'll be able to pull all of your team's docs and talks directly into Sybill. Sybill's been able to push updates to Slack for a while now, but soon this means that Sybill will be able to pull and learn from your Slack conversation. So if you're a VP of sales and you tell your rep, hey, let's give this prospect an extended trial, Sybill would reflect that and would have that knowledge and issue that as an action item for your rep. Or maybe your team has a competitive battle card that you use in deals that's living in Google Docs. Maybe you're using it consistently when a competitor comes up. Soon, Sybill will be able to pull directly from your Google Docs and give you that context. Now, we can't easily demo Slack and Google Ingest just yet, but dialer integrations are in beta with our team right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Shivansh and he'll show you how that works.
So this is one instance. So this is like a test environment that I've put a few calls in. So just to demo what dialer looks like. So once you have had the integration on, you'll have a tab called phone calls. You can see all your phone calls happening here, and you'll be able to access each of them. So you can open the side panel, you can listen to the audio, you can have a summary, your next steps, you can look through the transcript, comment on the transcripts with your coaching notes, you can do follow-ups, you can share the calls just as meetings. And Sybill now has intelligence over dialers as well. So Sybill will be able to distinguish between dialer calls, meetings, and if you ask specifics about dialer calls, cumulative insights over calls, what is the path of conversation, the talk track that's working the best for engaging prospect during dialer calls. So these kind of questions and cumulative insights, and also what to do to improve them further. Sybill will be there for you guys for dialers as well. And the good thing is this unlocks plenty of use cases around handoffs from BDRs to sales and a multitude of, cumulative insights coaching on top of it. So this is what Dial looks like. Over to you.
Yeah. And just to highlight again, like you'll notice that on the side nav there, we are separating it out from meetings so that knowing that like cold calls and what's happening often on a phone call is not exactly the same as what's happening in a meeting. It's a lot of times a lot more ad hoc, shorter often. So there is kind of a separate part in a separate section in the side nav that you'll see pretty soon for that. But it's when it comes to querying against that data, you'll still be able to query against it, know what happened the same way you would a normal meeting. Sweet. Thanks, Shivansh. I want to open it up right now, specifically if there was any Q&A. If you've got any questions, I answered this one. Drew, you brought up adding Salesforce's dialer to your integration list. Shivansh, do you mind refreshing my memory on which ones we have live soon?
So we already have Zoom call and outreach. We are building out a few of the common ones that are like Air Call, Ring Central. We have Nooks, all of these dialers coming in. But we have a multitude of them that we will be able to support in the coming weeks, and Salesforce should be on that list.
And then Rize asks, is Sybill integrated or linkable with Trello directly? Is the native integration expected in the near future or on your roadmap? You want to speak to that one, Shivansh? Trello, if I'm not mistaken, is a project management tool.
So I could look into it. So this would be, we're also actively building out. So like Colin talked about our ingest APIs. So that should allow to some extent access to these apps as well. To
Yeah,
your
and then
question, Drew, I'm sorry, Colin. Drew has a
I'll
question
go for it.
about PC Invisible Note Taker. So that's out of beta. We already have that as support. So if you go to your Sybill app today, go to settings, you'll have Invisible Note Taker there and the Invisible Recorder there, and you can go ahead and download it and use it.
We learn something new every day. I didn't even know that was out of beta. So live and learn. And then, yeah, I imagine Fabrizio, to answer your question a bit further, we might be able to find a satisfactory use case for you via API access. So that could be something that we could also talk about right now because we've launched that open API. That might be something that would work for you. Shivansh just asked, will the mobile version ever connect to a wearable like Plod?
That's very interesting. So it will be an app that's listed on the iPhone and Android soon. I'd be curious to explore how our app gets responsive to different wearables.
So the short answer, time will tell. Any other questions? I'm just making sure I didn't miss any. Also, for those of you who asked, we will send a recording. All right. Ah, there we go. Jeff, you got one. Jeff, is there a specific workflow in our app that you can recommend for inbound cell calls? Shivansh, any recommendation here? Oh, we have made some improvement here.
Right.
Shivansh, you might actually be able to show this because some of this we've shipped pretty recently, yeah?
I can present my screen and talk about this as
Yeah, you want to do an impromptu demo just to throw you under the bus?
well. Of course, always up for it. So here's what the live deal board looks like now.
Let me stop sharing so you could share, Shivansh, I think right now.
All right. Let me know.
There you go.
It's visible.
I've stopped, so you should be able to now.
All right. Sure. There you go. Is it visible now? All right. So this is what the deal board looks like now. The good thing about this deal board is you can go ahead and add new views that you can pin on here. And essentially, we've done a lot of UI, UX enhancements across the board. It'll be much faster, much more responsive, a lot of under the hood improvements of how Sybil looks at different deals, how you can look at activity across deals. You'll have a side panel that opens up. It'll show you all the activity. It'll show you a bunch of things. For instance, it'll tell you each and every touch point you've had, what the summary of the deal is, forecasts, all of these things that you've set up. It's much more visual, it's much more responsive, and you can also create your own views and pin them here so that you don't have to keep accessing them, creating them again and again. So you can create a view, save it, and pin it on top of your board. So you'll have like all your views for all your use cases right on there for one click. And you'll also have like, we have this suggested prompt that we have, which is create a deal playbook. That's one of my favorite prompts to use on deal data. It will give you like a bunch of details about your active deals, what's going on, give you an idea about what's live, what areas to focus on, and one step to take to move a deal forward every time. So all of these improvements have been made to the deal board. Any further questions or follow-ups on this?
Looks like Jeff just clarified further that no, not specifically through a dialer, but there are some iOS apps that you add a third party app so you can capture call recordings that are coming in inbound. So that could be some. The short answer is, Jeff, we don't have official plans for that. Definitely something we can keep on our radar as we're thinking more and more about deal sources and which conversations that we are capturing.
You can upload any of the files that you bring into Sybil. So it could be an audio file, it could be a call that you've recorded through a third-party app. So you can just upload it as a part of, go to your meetings page and upload that call there, and it will be in Sybil's context.
Yeah, that's a good call out. So if you do have something else, even if we don't have an integration for it just yet, if you are capturing meetings of some sort or calls of some sort in another tool, yeah, you can upload those.
Thanks for pointing that out, Mike. That's a pretty common use case, actually. So Sybil can read through HubSpot or CRM, whichever CRM you use, its properties. So common use case for our users is also having like a designated field created in CRM, which has data flowing in. And Sybil also picks that up as context.
Yeah, so that could be another workaround for some of these use cases y'all are considering. Is it is already connected to your CRM, having that field, and then Sybil can query against that field. All right. If there are no further questions, I think then we can call that a wrap. Thanks everyone for joining again. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email myself or Shivansh or both of us. I'll send out a recording either later today or early tomorrow. You can reply to that email. And those of you who are Sybil customers, thank you for using our product. Thank you for your feedback. We love building stuff with and for you all, and we'll chat soon.